Luke, you've got Justin back. As you kind of just try to get a feel for where he's at overall, what's the biggest challenge of just getting back in sync this week and getting ready to go for obviously a good opponent?
Yeah, he's been locked in mentally this whole time, especially the last 2 weeks because there was a chance. So that part of it's been good. I think that part of it's been pretty smooth. Getting back on the grass is the important part. We've had a couple chances to do that, and we're still going through that to see how far he can take everything. So the reps are important, and just making sure that he feels comfortable and ready to rock and roll is really the most important thing. I think as far as what's going on in our offense, he's got that stuff pretty good. So that part of it we feel good about.
How much are you balancing the under center versus in the shotgun, just making sure he has the functionality with the snap?
Yeah, that's part of the progression of the week, trying to figure that out, what he's feeling great about, what he's feeling comfortable with. So haven't narrowed that down just exactly yet, but feel good about being able to do a lot of different things so far, and he's handled the week pretty good.
With 7 games left, Luke, with Justin, if granted he can play, what are you kind of curious to see in his game from these last 7 games?
I mean, nothing in particular, man. I just want him to continue to get better. We want to get better at every aspect of the game. The run game, the protection game, and the pass game. He's got to continue to improve, just as everybody else does. And that's really the biggest thing, is that all of us continue to grow together.
Luke, the notion that was presented, I think, in one of the national games, that Justin could learn from watching some of the things that Bajan did was kind of mocked by a lot of Bears fans. But in reality, are there things that Bajan does that Justin can incorporate in his game just from observing another quarterback in this system?
Yeah, I wouldn't just narrow that down to Tyson, though. I would think that anytime you have an opportunity to watch any quarterback in the way that they're handling similar things that you do, you take notice and you learn from those experiences. I mean, in the film room, whether it's a practice rep or the game rep, it's not like I'm just talking to Tyson or Andrew's just talking to Tyson when you're in that quarterback room. So everyone should be learning from those opportunities. And anytime there's game experiences, you don't want to waste those reps. He's on the sideline, he's hearing the call, he gets to play the play mentally. How would he have done it, in that moment? And then we're sitting on the bench and we're talking about it and stuff like that after the series is over. So, yeah, I would hope that he got to learn a lot from it.
So what does, and specifically to Bajan, though, since he's in this system, what does he do, you think, that Justin could actually improve his own game by incorporating that into his game in this offense?
What does Tyson do?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, they both do a lot of things well. I think there's a lot of similarities between the two. There's a lot of similarities in the way they approach the game, the way they handle the process. I think Tyson has done a great job of learning from Justin and the way that he commands the huddle, commands the play calls, because Justin does such a great job with that, and that's something Tyson never had to do, going from a college scheme into that. So I think all of that's reflective of each other. And I think the way they practice an individual, I think the way they practice in team settings, you start to see. That's kind of like something that I've noticed in my career, is that the starter kind of acts a certain way and kind of does certain things, and the backup kind of mocks that. You kind of like the way that he drops, the way that he goes through his progressions. I think there's a lot of reflection. So when you see Tyson going out there and doing certain things, and whether it's to Justin's level or not, I think the two of them continue to learn from each other. I don't think there's anything specific in particular that one guy does better than the other.
Look, on the final play last week, can you kind of walk through the process of
Say that. What was the first?
final play
Okay,
last week,
yeah.
when you guys decided to make that, the process of getting the green light to go, finding the play that you want to go with, and then coaching it to Tyson before he goes to execute it, just so he knows and is reminded of the situation.
Yeah, so that was before the drive happened. We were if we had that kind of narrowed down. Okay, if we get in a situation where we want to go and get it, this is what we're gonna do. And Mooney, he was gonna run that route this time, and so we had that planned out, kind of going into that drive. And so once coach gives you the go, that was the go, and so we felt good about that. Good protection, good opportunity for guys to win a couple one-on-one routes in that play, and so we felt good with that opportunity. And so it was kind of discussed beforehand, not during. And the only discussion that you talk about in that situation is that, hey, a sack is okay. That's something that I mentioned in his ear. Hey, a sack's okay here because as long as the clock's running, we're in good shape. And then Mooney did a nice job and he got the completion, and then we're able to finish off the game.
What did you appreciate about Montgomery when he was here?
A ton. I have a ton of respect for him, his play style, the approach, the kind of teammate he is in this building. we had a great relationship, he and I, we still do. We still talk with each other. I think he's just somebody who came in here and did everything the right way and was about the right things, and guys followed him.
His run style, did that help kind of steer your team in toward the personality that you wanted your offense to have? It seemed like when he was in there, the violence that he ran with was kind of what you guys were looking for.
Well, I think he was a leader of our team, right? And I think his play style period was contagious. So for sure, he was, a part of that, creating that mentality for sure.
Is this the best your offensive line will be deployed to this point this season on Sunday?
You said the best, right?
Well, I mean, it's just,
I guess the healthiest is probably the case, right? We're finally getting some guys back, so we're excited to kind of finally get some extra pieces back and have some depth there and everything like that. So we're excited to see, specifically Nate, to get him back out there is going to be great.
now Tevin hasn't played a whole lot of left guard. I know that was the plan in the offseason. That's where he spent spring, summer. Is that a tough ask, or should it be pretty easy for him to just slide back over?
Well, it's never easy anytime anybody has to move any position. But to speak to Tevin, I mean, the ability to come in and be a tackle and then be a guard on both sides. I mean, he's played tackle on both sides. He's played guard on both sides. I just think that speaks to the type of player that he is and the capability that he has.
Flu said yesterday that over these next 7 games, he wants to see just consistency from Justin. What does consistency from the quarterback look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, it always starts with taking care of the football, right? I think that's the starting point for anybody on offense, but specifically the quarterback. And then it's just like what I was mentioning before. It's about getting better and progressing each and every week, right? And so I think there was really cool parts of this season that we saw that from him, right? And then unfortunately the injury comes. So let's get back on track with that and let's continue to grow together.
Does movement in the pocket fall into that category for you?
I mean, for sure. I think that's because that's part of taking care of the football, right? I think that's, sometimes there's bad looks or bad play calls or bad whatever, and you have to make the best out of it, not make a bad play worse, right? And so that's part of that. And then pocket movement, sometimes somebody makes a mistake and we'll avoid it, and you can minimize that mistake as much as you can. That's part of playing that position for sure. And so all that stuff together is part of him growing together.
Justin Fields had a very measured approach to the final 7 games of the season, kind of saying some of the things that you're saying in terms of his goals for the rest of the year. But I think it's fair to say that, Ryan Poles and people are still trying to evaluate him. Is he the future of the Chicago Bears? So do you feel pressure in these final 7 games to make it obvious that Justin Fields is the franchise quarterback going forward?
No, maybe it's fair for them to have to think that way and do that thing, but I think it's from our perspective, it's about us getting better as a unit each and every day. And I think Justin's a big part of us getting better each and every day. And so if he grows and gets better, then we're going to grow and get better.
Luke, how can you as a coordinator mitigate the rust factor with Fields when a guy's missed that much time? Is there anything you can do? What can you do to?
No, yeah, I mean, you're relying or leaning on all of the work that you've put in since 2 years ago, even really for him, right? And then, if you get specific to this off season, to this training camp, and all the game reps that he's had already, and like I said, he's been close to playing, so it's not like it's just he hasn't done absolutely anything here in these last couple weeks. So I think the way practice went yesterday, and we continue to get more reps this opportunity this week, I think we'll be just fine.
The pre-draft process / pro day circuit, did you get a good look at Gibbs, and if so, what were kind of your impressions of who he was? We went to their pro day, got to sit down with him. Very impressive young man. I mean, incredible story that he has, and then this past weekend, because for whatever reason, right, got to kind of watch them live for the first time, and he was, all that stuff showed up, the explosiveness, all that stuff was there. So he's a pretty impressive young man.
I know you've talked to Justin about when he takes off and runs, but being careful not taking more hits than he has to. With the thumb, does that become even more important? And do you have any concerns about ball security when he's carrying the ball in that right hand?
No, it's everybody's job. The ball is everything for us, and so it's everybody's job to take care of that football. And I think that's part of going through this process of healing and figuring out exactly how he wants to deal with all that stuff. But knowing him, he's as tough as it comes. So I feel like if he's out there, everything's going to be just fine for him.
If Herbert gets activated this week, I know Deontay's still dealing with the injury. Like what is that decision like in terms of like the carry split, the load share between somebody who's been playing really well up until this point, but Herbert obviously was the number one back before he got hurt. How do you balance that and figuring out, what that's gonna look like?
Yeah, I think that's a fortunate position to be in, to be able to have a few guys that can go do that and kind of display our play style. And so we look forward to that opportunity. I think Khalil was playing really well. What was it? It was Washington, I believe, right? That he got hurt and he was crushing it that night. So we're excited to get him back on the field. And exactly how much or all that looks like, I think that's kind of like, again, we got to figure that out. Who's all healthy? Who's able to go? And then on top of that, how much can you go when you haven't played in a few weeks too?
Do you think Foreman's earned at least a share of those carries though? The way he's played the last.
No, I think Deontay's done a great job, right? You talked about play style. He's bought into all that stuff, right? And we love the downhill style that he's been playing with and the physicality that he's been playing with. And last week the run right on the goal line was just kind of articulates exactly what he's meant for us.
Thank you, Luke.
Yes.
What position is you?
Good morning. How's everyone?
How are you? Good morning.
Good. I'm doing good. Happy to get this week started. Obviously, third quarter of the season. Coaches have a big emphasis on the third quarter of the season, this being a division game. For us, obviously, Lions, you look on tape, and it's a tough opponent, as any opponent is, all right? But this team is a tough opponent, aggressive team, team that plays really good complementary football in all phases, and then particularly aggressive on teams. You guys seen that in the Kansas City game where they went for the fake, really backed up. So have to be alert for everything with this unit. They're aggressive, whether they're up or they're down, aggressive with fourth down decisions. So a lot of that stuff goes into play, along with playing. Coach Phip played them years, before, and really good coach. Was a really good coach in Philly as well. Has a great success in this league. Really good job with the punter, doing a great job with the punter. Jack Fox is a really good punter. Worked him out coming out. He's really turned into a really, really good player. He does a great job controlling field position for them there. So they've had other great contributions on their punt unit. We got to be aware of Jack Campbell, who's the first-round linebacker, plays on there. He does an outstanding job. So we're going to have to have a plan for him. Reeves Maben, 44. They got a ton of good players. So it's a really good challenge for us. Really looking forward to it. When you look at their kickoff coverage unit, they're outstanding there. Very aggressive, hanging the ball up, number one in the league in drive start average. So it's going to be a challenge for us as well. But we're excited for the challenge and ready to get to work this week.
How aggressive they are on fourth down and being aware of the fake punts, like how do you influence in game? I think he called it safe when you leave out the defense. If you anticipate that they might be executing a fake punt, how do you balance that of wanting to keep your punt return team out there, but also knowing there might be times where defense needs to be out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you just got to have a feel and a flow for the game. What they do is they make it really challenging, and they do it on all down and distances in any time of the game. So whether they're up or down, but it's just a feel for the game. And obviously, you rather have your punt return unit out there more than your defense out there. But sometimes you have to put your defense out there, and it deters fakes. So.
Richard, it was a week ago. What was your diagnosis on the punt return touchdown you guys gave up?
Yeah, so obviously that one, really disappointed about that play. Really disappointed about the play, but also very encouraged about how the guys responded. Some teams, that happens to them early on in the game, and you never want to happen, early on in the game, and some teams fold. Our guys didn't fold. I mean, they responded. They came back with 3 punts inside the 9. But, again, when I look at it, like, you have a short week before that, and sometimes when you have a short week, we can say, hey, that's a good thing, you can move on. I think the opposite could be said when you got a 10-day break. So I've had a long 10 days or going into a long 10 days of sitting back, reflecting on it, like, what could we have done differently? What could I personally done differently? Whether that be a call or a drill, even on a short week when you got 2 days of practice, maybe we could have did a different drill. Maybe I could have aligned the personnel differently. Uh, and you lose a lot of sleep over it.
On that,
You do. So what I thought could have been better on the play, I thought we hit a good ball. I thought it was a good punt, really good punt. I thought that initially we didn't make the play at point of attack. I thought we had bodies down in that area. I feel like we were dispersed initially, good. I don't feel like we were stacked to start. Um, and I feel like we had bodies in the area. But if you give any NFL player time and space and you don't converge, then you're at risk. And I feel like we could have converged and condensed to the ball a little bit better. And that's what I saw in that play.
Kind of answered it there, but it looked like Blackwell had a chance to make that play. Did he kind of over pursue that a little bit, or what's the teaching moment on that for him? Is he still a young player?
Yeah, still a young player. First of all, phenomenal player for us. First game back in a while. He hasn't been able to play much for us lately, but everybody knows he played damn near at a Pro Bowl level last year. So I really love the player and love the person. The coaching point on that is to do what he did 2 plays later when we hit a 62-yard punt and tackled him inside the 9-yard line. And that's long stride, short stride, shuffle and shoot. What happens is he was a little bit out of control. So when you're in full sprint mode, that's what's called a long stride. So I'm chopping out, pop, 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 pop. And once I get closer to the returner, then I got a short stride, so I'm not out of control. And then I shuffle my feet, and then I shoot with my head on the leverage side. So I think if we do that, then you make the ball go east and west. And when you make the ball go east and west, then you buy time for the rest of the coverage to come downfield. So that's what I saw in that play. And if you look at the second play, the second open field punt opportunity, that they tackled him inside the 9-yard line when they all tackled him and all, it was a swarm there. That's how punt coverage should look. And that one fired our team up. But I like the resolve of the unit because they came back with 3 punts inside the 9 and they could have folded. They could have been deer in the headlights. But we always talk about one snap and clear. And they erased that and they played good ball from there.
Richard, what can you do with Bayless to help get him on the right path to being active on game day? And what can Bayless do for himself in practice to get back on track?
Yeah, I think we just made the best decision for our football team at that point, and I think he's got to do what he did, before now when he was active. So he's got to just work his tail off in practice. He's got to keep developing, and he'll have a chance out there to compete. We're always going to try to put the best guys out there for that game to win that week, and that could change week to week. But he just got to keep going about his business the right way. I can tell you yesterday he had one of his best practices that he's ever had on special teams. So, I mean, he's obviously on his mind.
So this isn't a case of he has a chance to be back out there sooner rather than later, or
Yeah, you're asking that question to the wrong person. Like, if he's in the room, I'm coaching him. He's working his tail off, and what else can he do? You know what I mean? So, and I'll coach him as hard as I can.
Made the 49-yarder.
Yep.
And then he has the 54-yard attempt. In the moment, obviously you guys do a bunch pregame, but how do you describe kind of that sequence of just making sure that he's still good to try the 54-yarder and the quick turnaround between those 2 kicks?
Yeah, I mean, it's really an outstanding job by him in operation and the field goal team on the second part. Obviously, the first part we got moved back, right? And the first part of it, obviously, you don't want to have that happen. But we have so much confidence in that kid, and he wanted to kick that ball. I mean, I think that's his second 54-yard field goal this year. I think he's 4-4 on him or something like that, and we still got 7 games left. He was 4 or 5 of all last year. So the fact that he made his 200 kick, had a birthday, all that good stuff that goes into play, you just, from the outside in, you don't know how much, because people just think of those guys as kickers, how much that gains credibility in the locker room when one leader of our team has a mistake or a mishap, we have to move back, and then another leader in his area picks him up, and how much that brought our team together. We had field goal meeting today, and those guys still talking about it. So it's just one guy having another guy's back, and the teams that I've been on that have been successful. Everybody has each other's back, and we keep pulling together, and then eventually it works out.
Check with him really quickly in a moment and say, like, are you still good? I mean, obviously you know what his range is pregame kicking north, but like after the penalty's thrown, you take a quick check with him?
Yeah, you always do. I mean, we already have the distance, so we already know the distance. But when I looked across that field and he looked at me and I looked at him and Coach looked at him and we all looked at each other, we knew it was going in. Yeah, he wanted it bad. Yeah. Good? All right, thanks. Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that Montgomery poses for you guys?
Yeah, so we feel like we know him pretty well. Big, strong, hits the hole really fast, runs with great pad level, really good after contact, keeps his legs moving. Both backs, him and Gibbs, are dynamic. So they have two really, really good backs.
How unique is kind of Gibbs' skill set in terms of what he can do both as a runner and pass catcher?
Yeah, so he's unique. He reminds me a little bit of Kamara in New Orleans. And obviously those guys have a New Orleans background where he's really good out of the backfield catching the ball. But obviously kind of a interesting dynamic with Montgomery's more of the power back and Gibbs is more of the outside runner, but dynamic in the open field. Can make people miss, but also finish his runs.
They've been pretty productive all year offensively, but particularly so this last week. And within the Chargers game, what did you see that left an impression on you?
Yeah, so with Detroit, it's really the balanced attack. If you look at rushing, they're fifth in the league. They average 30 attempts per game. They're fourth in the league in rushing with, I think it's about 140 yards per game. So it's the run game, but it's also the pass game too. So to me, what they are is they're a balanced offense.
So when you face a balanced offense like that, how much pressure is that on your linebackers when they're running like a play action, they have to step up, or they have to just be constant?
Yeah, it's what makes their offense tick. It starts with their run game, and off of their run game it's their play action, it's their boots, it's their screens. So that's what makes them such a challenge to defend.
With Tremaine out the last couple of games, what's impressed you the most about the way that Sanborn's filled in?
We have a lot of confidence in Jack, and really, if you look at last year, kind of a different dynamics with the situation. But Jack came in and played really well, so we had a lot of confidence in Jack coming in this year because of what he did last year in those 6 games that he played. So when Tremaine went down, we had a ton of confidence in Jack, and he really earned that confidence by the way he played. And it really started his rookie year in practice. He practiced well, and that carried over to the games. So when he came in there this year. And he played really well. And really, that's the expectations for Jack. He's a really good player.
How have you seen the influence of TJ and Tremaine on Jack and his development? Have you seen?
Jack's a pretty mature guy. So even as a rookie, he handled himself like a veteran. But obviously, it's kind of unique because TJ and Jack played together at Wisconsin. They're both, from the same area in Chicago. So they obviously have a relationship that goes back to college. But I do think having veterans for Jack has been great, just because Tremaine and TJ have played so many snaps in the league. They can kind of go back to their history. Hey, this happened here, or think about it like this, Jack. So just because the amount of snaps that TJ and Tremaine have banked playing, 11 years combined, 6 and 5, it does help Jack.
That nose for the ball that Sanborn has, is that innate or is that learned?
Coaching.
Or is that just a guy who's always in the right place at the right time? What is it?
Here's what I'll say about not just Jack, but really all the linebackers that have been playing. Tremaine, Jack, TJ, Noah, they're all instinctive. And, again, is that something that some linebackers just have it, and those guys have it. They have a way of finding the ball, and that's what we always talk about when we look at linebackers coming out, whether it's in the draft or free agency. How many do they hit the ball? How do they get to the ball? How do they process it? And really, those guys do a great job of seeing the formations, seeing the post snap, whether it's poles or reading the triangle, whatever it is. They just have a really good understanding of football and getting to the ball.
When you guys, when you do a good job of limiting the run, and you guys have this season, what does that do to a team like Detroit that is so balanced? I imagine the whole point is to try and get them in obvious passing situations.
Yeah, so a big part of why stopping the run is so important is to get teams in 3rd and long. It's really hard to defend teams when they're 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. So if you're really good on 1st and 2nd down, you give your chance to execute and get off the field on 3rd down. So it's so important. It really starts with, the D-line. And they've done a tremendous job. And our run stats have been, the best in the league in the last 6 games. And really the credit goes to the guys up front. Just like when you're, I always compare it to offense when you're running the ball well. Everybody talks about the running backs, but it's the guys up front. And same thing goes with defense.
There's a little bit of an extension of that. You don't always get off the field on 3rd down against this team, even when you stop them. What are the notable dynamics for you guys defensively, knowing how fearless and aggressive they are to go for 4th and medium, 4th and short, whatever it is?
Yeah, you got to have a plan for 4th down. So sometimes 3rd down's like 2nd down because they're going to go for it on 4th down. So that just goes into your game planning. But yeah, they are an aggressive team.
You mentioned the guys up front. Have you seen kind of a ripple effect of Montez and what he's meant to the defense so far?
Yeah, you could really see it in the Carolina game. And here's the thing about stats is, although he didn't have any sacks, he affected the quarterback. And that was a big deal for our defensive backs and our linebackers, the guys in coverage, because that helps them out a lot because the quarterbacks feel that. So Tez he's been a huge impact for us, but also just him as a person. He's just a positive guy. You see, when the other guys got sacks, Tez was the most exciting guy on the field. So it's been pretty neat to see the player. We knew the player was good, but just the person too.
With as big of a threat as Laporta has been for them on 3rd down, you talk about those situations, like how do you go in trying to defend somebody like that when
No,
establish that confidence?
Yeah, no, he's a dynamic player. So like on 3rd down, even don't matter what the down is, 1st or 2nd down. Laporta, St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery. It's not just Laporta. They have a cast of weapons. So you just gotta have awareness of where those guys are and have a good plan to try to execute as much as possible.
You could talk about Tremaine's length is just so rare when he brings to that position. I know it's only been 2 games, but have you seen the way other offenses can adjust? Like, are there things that they can do with Tremaine out? Do you guys have to adjust with that or not so much?
I don't see it that much. I mean, obviously Jack and Tremaine, different players. But in terms of what we're calling and what we're doing, we're playing the same defense, and I think teams are trying to, for the most part, attack us the same ways.
Dave, TJ's been pretty unheralded, but how do you describe what he's meant to this defense?
Well, to me, he's not unheralded. He's been awesome. And again, it kind of goes back to everybody sees the production on the field, and it's been high. He's 2nd in the league right now in tackles, and I know he's got some sort of a record through the first 10 games with the Bears right now, and that's really good. But even more importantly is just the leader that he is, how he carries himself, and how that kind of ripple effects throughout the whole defense and the whole team. So, he's been super productive on the field, and he's been a great character guy for us in the building.
Thank you.
Thank you.